My name is Nick Coleman. I'm 33, an electrician in Minneapolis with the IBU. That night, I was lying under the kitchen sink, changing the trap. It smelled of silicone caulk and stainless steel cleaner. Local rock was playing softly from the pump. Melissa leaned against the jamb and said, "Nick, I'm pregnant, and it's not your baby. I'm going to Ryan. We'll start over in Nashville." I wiped my hands on a rag, stood up, and set the key on the countertop. We had been choosing this quartz slab for 3 weekends. I looked at her, then at Melissa. "Then good luck," I said. "Take what's yours. Leave the key on the hook." "You won't say anything?" she asked. "No screaming, no why." "No, you've already said everything." She stood there for a few more seconds, as if she was expecting a different reaction. Then she went into the bedroom, got out her suitcase, gathered her clothes, documents, and makeup bag. She took a photo album from her trip to Montana from the shelf. She put the suitcase by the door. She took one of the keys off the keychain. She hung it on the hook. "I'll leave the car with you until the end of the month," she said. "I'll take the bus. Ryan has a van." "Understood. I'm 6 weeks pregnant," she said, as if testing whether the meaning would get through. I heard. She nodded, opened the door, and went out. The smell of perfume lingered in the hallway. A minute later, the main door closed. I stood in the kitchen and listened to the house. The ticking of the clock, the compressor of the refrigerator. Scout the dog lay by his bowl and looked at me. He always understands when the order in the house changes. "Let's go for a walk," I said. It was chilly outside. The snow was slushy, the sidewalk was covered in puddles, the cars were covered in salt. We walked around the block, Scout circled familiar places, then we came back. I took off my shoes, wiped the puddle near the rug, put the kettle on, looked at my phone. There were no messages. I called my mother. "Mom, I'm fine," I said when she picked up. "What are you doing?" "Baking bread. You sound unusual." "What happened?" "Melissa left. She's pregnant with another man." I'm calm. I need to get things done. There was a pause on the other end. Then Mom said, "Come over for dinner tomorrow. I won't ask any questions. I'll just make some soup." "Thank you. Tomorrow after work." I hung up. I drank some tea. I checked to see if the new siphon was leaking. Everything was dry. I turned off the light in the kitchen and went into the living room. I sat down on the sofa and turned on the TV without sound. There was a basketball program on the screen. I wasn't listening. I was thinking about what to do in the morning. The plan was simple. Close the joint account. Change the insurance. Update the beneficiary in the 401k. Remove her from the mobile family plan. Check who the scout is registered to me. Let the team know I won't be delayed by personal issues. Work as usual. I gathered the documents in a folder. Marriage certificate, insurance policy, statements, house contract. Put them in a backpack. Wiped the tabletop. Kicked the ads out of the mailbox. Thought the refrigerator was a bit empty. Eggs, sauce, a piece of cheese. Tomorrow after work, I need to stop by the co-op. That night, I slept lightly but evenly. I woke up at 6, as usual. Made coffee, petted Scout. At 7, I went to work. The garage was cold, the tools in their places. I got into the truck, turned on the heater and the radio. The roads were clear. I didn't speculate about who Melissa had said what to before or why she had chosen this way. I decided to leave it to her. At 7:40, I was at the depot. Ben was already checking the pads, safety belts, carabiners. He raised his head. "Morning, Nick." "Morning. You look reserved. Everything okay?" "Melissa left yesterday. Pregnant. Going to her musician in Nashville." "Got it." Ben nodded. "Do you want a day off?" "No. We're working." "Okay. Today is maintenance on the 46th, plus a request for a transformer on Columbus." We loaded the coils, insulators, tools. I checked the straps, the safety net on the derrick. We left at 8. At 46th Street, we went up to the crossarms, replaced the cracked insulator, tightened the fasteners. The wind was biting, but bearable. I looked at ordinary roofs, ordinary yards, ordinary vans at the curbs. People below were taking their children to kindergarten, unloading bags from cars, arguing on the porches about garbage cans. Life went on as usual. It did not interfere with my task. At noon, we pulled into the base. I took a sandwich from the container and sat down on the box. Ben poured himself some soup from a thermos. "Do you want to talk?" he asked. "After my shift, we'll go to Grumpy's. I'll go to the phones now." "As you say." After lunch, I asked the dispatcher for an hour off. I went to the bank. The manager recognized me. We opened an account together 2 years ago. "Good afternoon, Nick. How can I help you?" "Close the joint account. Leave a minimum balance. Transfer the money to my personal account. Here are the passports and the contract." She looked at the screen and printed out the forms. "Is the reason standard?" "Yes. Family changes." "I understand. Sign here and here." I signed. The manager said, "The balance has been transferred. The joint account will remain active with a minimum balance to correctly close automatic debits. Do you want to disable auto payments?" "Yes. It's all on me." Next came the insurance. The agent took Melissa off the policy over the phone and recalculated the rate. "Your monthly amount will be reduced by $180, he said. "The changes will take effect on the first of the month." Fine. HR at work sent a form to change the beneficiary. I indicated my mother. I signed it electronically. "Nick, we got it," Kelly from HR replied. "If anything, come in. And if you need an employee support program, we have the contacts." "Thank you, Kelly." By evening, I returned to the base. Ben looked at me. "Let's go to the bar." "Let's go, but not for long. Tomorrow, we're going to Mom's for dinner." Grumpy's was half empty. We each had a pint. Ben was silent until I said, "There was no scandal. She reported everything. I accepted everything. There is a plan. I am taking steps. I have no children. The responsibility for this child lies with the one who made it." "That's sobering," Ben said. "If you want, I'll check my channels to see who this Ryan is, without making too much noise." "Not yet. I don't want to waste my attention on him." "Okay." I got home around 9. Scout met me at the door. I poured him some food, put out a bowl of water. I heated up some pizza for myself, ate 2 pieces, and saved the rest for tomorrow. I washed my plate, sat down at the table, and made a list for tomorrow. Mobile operator, utilities, mail, change passwords. I marked with a marker what had already been done. The phone blinked. A message from an unknown number. "Nick, this is Caroline, Melissa's mom. We need to talk." I turned off the sound. I answered briefly, "Tomorrow after 5 p.m. on the phone. 5 minutes." I sent it and put the phone face down. I went out onto the porch. The yard was quiet. The neighbor across the street was parking his car for the night, and the TV was on in his window. I thought that I didn't want to turn my life into a field of constant showdowns. I needed order. Work, home, dog, sports, mom. Everything else is needed and according to the rules. Inside, I put everything Melissa had left in a bag. Jewelry, a couple of sweaters, photos, her interior design books. I didn't throw anything away. I put the bag by the front door. Before going to bed, I checked the doors and windows, set the alarm for 6. Scout lay down by the bed. I stroked his head. He yawned and closed his eyes. I lay down and thought that tomorrow would be a normal working day. And that was good. On Sunday morning, I picked up my mother by car, and we went to the market. She bought carrots, onions, chicken. She said she would make soup for 3 days. I bought bread, coffee, apples, food for Scout. We silently put the bags in the trunk. Mom said, "If you're uncomfortable being alone in the house, come to me for a couple of nights. I won't ask." "Thanks, Mom. I'm fine. I can handle it." At home, I fixed the squeaky handle on the pantry door, replaced the lamp in the hallway, cleaned the sink, disassembled the shelf with dishes. These simple things gave me back a sense of control. By evening, the house was clean and quiet. I put the bag with Melissa's things in the hallway. I wrote her a short letter. Your things are packed. Pick them up any evening between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. If at another time, write a day in advance. I am not ready to talk. Please respect this condition. Nick. Sent. Put the phone on the table. Sat on the sofa. Looked at the schedule for Monday. Maintenance on the Northern Line, then applications for complaints about transformer noise. Everything was clear. I turned off the light and went to bed. I didn't dream of scenes or conversations. There was just flat darkness and a warm dog at my feet. I woke up before the alarm, made coffee, and realized that there was a lot of work ahead. I was ready for it. On Monday, I woke up without an alarm. Coffee, a bowl for Scout, a short walk to the corner and back. On the way back, I said the plan out loud. Mobile operator, utilitany, change of steam lay, separate subscriptions, a conversation with Carolina at 5 in the evening. Then the usual shift. At the depot, we gathered for the morning briefing. Ben went through the list. Insurance, helmets, belts, check carabiners. Dispatcher Kendra brought up the day's requests on the screen. There's a transformer making noise on Columbus. People are complaining about the hum, she said. A street lamp burned out on 48th. They also asked to look at the lines behind the school. The branches are touching the wire. Let's take everything in order, Ben said. Nick, you're with me to Columbus. Then we'll move the tower to the school. I nodded. Work is what keeps you above water. We closed 2 applications before lunch. It was quick on Columbus. We tightened the fasteners, checked the grounding, and the hum went away. The owner of the house came out in a robe and asked how long it would be. I showed him the paper with the mark. It should be quiet. If he comes back, call the control room, I said. Thanks, guys. He held out a bottle of water. I took one and left the rest on the porch. We drove on. By 1 o'clock, I asked for 40 minutes off. I needed to settle the issue with my mobile. I stopped by the operator's office in the shopping center. The girl in uniform smiled. How can I help? I want to remove the second line from my account, change the PIN, enable protection against number portability, and remove general access in the application. Okay, let's check. She entered the data. Does the line end at 73? Yes. I'm withdrawing. You'll have a recalculation from the next cycle. We'll change the PIN now. Do you want to turn on the porting block? Yes. Done. She turned the screen towards me. Check. I entered a new PIN, enabled 2-factor authentication, set up biometrics in the app. The girl offered an installment plan for a new phone. I refused, took the receipt, and headed for the exit. In the parking lot, I got into a pickup truck and checked off the list. Mobile phone ready. Next up are utilities. Electricity and gas were registered in my name, but auto payments were from the old joint account. I stood in the yard near the warehouse, took out my laptop, connected to the depot's Wi-Fi, and changed the card to a new one. Water supply the same. Internet at home in my name, left the tariff. I set new passwords everywhere, 2-factor authentication for email, bank, and cloud. I wrote everything down in the password manager. I went through the subscriptions separately. I removed the streaming package that we took together and left only what I use. I returned to the base exactly at the beginning of the second half of the day. Ben was already loading the ladders. Did you make it? He asked. Yes. All that's left are utilities and passwords. I've done everything. Not bad. After 4, we finished with the school. The branches were removed, the line was cleared. The school principal came out to thank us, asked if there would be any outages during the week. Ben said no, the maintenance was done. I caught up with Kelly from HR outside the office. I saw your request to change the beneficiary, she said. Everything is processed. If you want, we have an employee support program. 5 sessions with a therapist, no reports to management. It's easier than going through insurance. Thank you. Give me the contact. She handed me a piece of paper with a phone number and a link. I put it in my inside pocket, neither promising nor refusing. I was home by 5. I poured Scout some water and put the kettle on. My phone vibrated. Carolina Harper. I pressed accept. Nick, this is Caroline. The voice was collected hard. We need to discuss what you're going to do next. You have 5 minutes as agreed, I said. Speak. Melissa is pregnant. She made a mistake. This is a hard time. A real man does not leave a woman alone. The child has a father. His name is Ryan Pierce. Address any questions about financial support to him. On my part, I do not prevent Melissa from taking her things. I do not make scenes. I do not spread gossip. The rest is not for me. But you were family, Nick. For 6 years, you took vows. I did mine. She didn't. I don't intend to discuss this with you. If Melissa needs help with the documents, there are services. I can send a list. I won't give you any money or housing. This is cruel. That's fair. I looked at the timer. We have a minute. Anything on the agenda? She has nowhere to live. The hotel is expensive. Maybe we should at least give her a couple of weeks in a house. No, I live in this house. If she comes for things, let her write a day in advance. I'll leave the package on the porch. I'll remember what you said. There was hurt in his voice. I hope you won't have to regret it. Goodbye, Carolina. I turned it off. I sat down at the table and wrote a short letter to Melissa. List of services, city shelters, free lawyers, pregnancy center, helplines. Date and time for things from 6 to 8 p.m. any weekday. Notify the day before. Please do not ring the doorbell. The package will be on the porch. Sent, attaching links. To close the security issue, I went to an electronics store and bought a video doorbell with a camera. Installed it, linked it to the phone. Checked the recording. Set up notifications only for movement at the door. At 7, I went to my mother's. She lived on the first floor of a quiet house in Richfield. There was soup, bread, and salad on the table. We ate in silence. She put a second helping in my bowl. How is work? She asked. It's fine. 2 requests, school, hardware is okay. The dispatcher gave another one for tomorrow. Did people help? Kelly gave me the therapist's contact information. Maybe I'll go. Ben is hanging around. Okay, Mom, put the kettle on. I have a blanket and a set of clean sheets. Take them. And a couple of pots if you need them. There's enough in the house. Thank you. Your stuff is in the garage. She meant the tools and work bags. Everything is in place. I'll also set up a video call so as not to get into an awkward situation when her things are delivered or someone comes unannounced. Right? And one more thing. Mom put her hand next to mine without touching. No one will force you to be good at your own expense. Remember that. I remember. After dinner, I helped her take out the trash and went home. Scout was waiting for me at the porch. He always hears the car. We walked around the block. A couple was kicking a ball around near the park. The kid fell, got up, and walked on. I found myself watching, but not getting stuck in my thoughts, just recording. At home, I sent out a general text to friends and acquaintances who knew both of us. Friends, Melissa and I are breaking up. I won't discuss the details. Please respect my boundaries. I don't comment or accept mediation. If anyone has business with Melissa, please resolve it directly with her. Thank you for understanding. Nick. The answers were varied. Hang in there. If anything happens, I'm here. I'll stop by for coffee. Too bad. One wrote, maybe everything will work out. I sent him the same wording about boundaries without arguing. Before going to bed, I checked the camera by the door. Empty. The bag with my things was on the rug inside. I'll take it out to the porch by 6 tomorrow. A letter from the union flashed on my phone. Unscheduled safety meeting on Wednesday. I marked it on my calendar. Tuesday morning began with a visit to the municipal office. It was necessary to sign a paper on the division of responsibility for water for the previous month. The manager calculated the share, printed out a receipt. Pay now? Yes. I swiped the card. I've already set up auto payment for the new account. It will take place next month. On the way out, Kelly called. Nick, about the support program. Are you ready to schedule an appointment with a therapist? The first session is 30 minutes online. Let's do it on Thursday at 7 in the evening. I wrote it down. The link will be sent to your email. At the base, Ben threw me a helmet. There's a lot of branches today, he said. Let's get a chainsaw. And don't forget your ear protection. We worked in a park where branches fell on the line. Dogs were walking nearby, children were riding scooters. During the break, a man in a jacket with the school logo came up to me, their line passed nearby. Listen, the floodlight at our stadium is acting up. Can you take a look? Send the request through the city, I said. We won't interfere without a request. But if it's food, we'll come quickly. Got it. Thank you. The workday ended without surprises. At 6, I took the bag with my things out onto the porch and put a note next to it. You can pick it up until 8. I'm not letting anyone in the house. Don't ring the doorbell. Text me when you pick it up. The camera turned on and I checked the notifications. At 7:40, a message arrived. Picked it up. M. I watched the recording. Melissa came up, took the bag, walked away without looking up. No scenes. I sat down in the kitchen with a cup of tea. The phone lit up again with an unknown number. I didn't answer. A minute later, a long text message arrived asking not to put a period. I didn't read it to the end. I marked the number as spam. I forwarded everything to Ben. He asked me to save the correspondence. His response came immediately. Make a backup and hold the line. Before going to bed, I called my mom and asked if she needed help with the grocery store. She said everything was fine, but offered to let me pick up her old smoked meat pot for the weekend. I agreed, and for the first time in days, I felt the usual tiredness of home rather than tension. Wednesday was a busy day. The safety meeting discussed a recent incident in a neighboring county where a contractor failed to buckle up at height. Our foreman reminded us of the rules, and we signed everything. Kendra gave 2 more bids before the end of the week. I asked to leave early on Friday to work on the garage and replace the old lock on the shed. Ben approved. In the evening, I went out to the lake with Scout. The embankment was crowded. People were running, some were walking quickly, some slowly. A woman with a stroller stopped nearby and asked where the nearest drinking water pump was. I showed her. She thanked me and walked on. Everything was calm. At home, I put together a small first aid kit for cuts and burns. There was some minor housework to do that week. I laid out the tools on a rack in the garage and labeled the containers: drills, fasteners, electrical tape. I checked the batteries for the screwdriver. Everything was based on simple things: work, order, schedule. On Thursday, a link came from the therapist. I sat down at the table and connected. A woman of about 45 appeared on the screen and introduced herself as Dr. Larson. Nick, good evening. This is an introduction. Tell me, what do you want to work with? Boundaries, I said, and so as not to get caught up in other people's expectations, and so that anger doesn't keep you from sleeping when it comes. Okay? She nodded. Tell me briefly what happened. No details, just the facts. I relayed it. She asked questions to the point, about sleep, appetite, concentration, support from others. We agreed on 3 meetings of 30 minutes each. I disconnected and thought that this was a good investment. Before going to bed, I received another message from an unknown person, a photo of a baby ultrasound without text. I turned off the phone and put it in a drawer. Scout looked at me. I stroked him. The house was quiet. I lay down and fell asleep without any lapses. I arrived at the base early on Friday morning. The snow had melted, the pavement was wet. In the locker room, someone was discussing the Vikings game. I silently threw on my jacket, checked my insurance, and grabbed my helmet. The reception area smelled of coffee and wet rubber. Kendra handed over her clipboard. Nick, you're heading out to Central Avenue with Ben this afternoon. City call. Complaints about a sagging line over an alley. Received. The phone vibrated. The number was unfamiliar. I put it in my pocket. At the meeting, the foreman reminded us about the safety points. We checked in and went to our cars. Until 10, we changed street lamps on the 48th. Tower, belts, ratchet, new lamps. When we went down, an elderly man in a jacket with the emblem of the local parish came up to me. "Are you Nick?" he asked. "My name is Thomas. I'm the assistant pastor at St. Mark S. I was talking to Caroline Harper. She asked me to get in touch." "I'm at work," I said. "I have 10 minutes before I leave." "I understand." He kept his hands in his pockets and spoke calmly. "I don't want to get personal, but we always look for a way to reconcile. Sometimes people need support to get through a difficult time. If you are ready to meet, the pastor can listen to both sides. Thank you for the offer. I am not a parishioner. I do not see both sides here. I did not make the choice that led to this. The child has a father. Let him participate. But Melissa is scared. Pregnancy, moving, lack of stability. He chose his words carefully. I'm not making excuses for her, but we teach you to take care of the weak. Caring is not always save at any cost, I said. It's also about boundaries. I'm not ready to meet and discuss. I don't have the time or motivation for that. He nodded like a man who hears something other than what he expected. Then at least accept the list of our resources. There are consultants, volunteers, food aid. Give it to Melissa if you want. You can send it to her by email. I have already given her several addresses of city services. Okay? He took out a business card. If you change your mind, contact me. Thank you. We loaded up and drove on. Ben was silent until we reached the crossroads. Did the church contact you directly? He asked. Pastor's assistant. Calm. No pressure. But with a comeback and support agenda. They're always about family at any cost. Ben shrugged. In stories like that, you don't have to be good for the sake of it. Stay the course. We stopped at a taco truck for lunch. I got carne asada and a bottle of water. Ben scrolled through his phone. Look, I don't like to pry, but I know a guy who works at a hotel in Nashville, not far from Operaland. He said a guy who looked like Ryan Pierce checked out last night without paying. The name on the reservation was R. Pierce. Left his guitar case in the debtor's room. Ben looked at me. I don't know if it's the same guy, but he looks like what Caroline said. Noted. I took a bite of the taco. I won't run after him. I just want it to be something that doesn't involve my money or my house. One more thing, then. Ben opened a tab with County Public Records. There's a petty claims case, overdue rent on a van, found in favor of the plaintiff, a year ago. Thank you for telling me. I want to know who those who pressure me to be responsible are dealing with. That's enough. We finished our meal in silence. Ben wiped his hands with a napkin. And one more thing. Save all messages. I'll create a folder on the cloud. Send me copies. If they start trying to put pressure on you through work or lies on social networks, it will come in handy. I'm already saving it. Yesterday, I received an ultrasound without text. I put it in the archive. That's right. After lunch, we checked the sag of the line. The storekeeper of the neighboring store said that the boxes were high. A truck could catch them. We measured the clearance, raised the wire by 2 mounting holes, put in additional spacers. An inspector from the works department arrived and confirmed the norm. Kelly called closer to 3. Nick, we got a strange call from a woman. She introduced herself as my wife's relative. She said that you were aggressive and might lose your temper. I'm just recording that such a call took place. We responded that we don't discuss the private lives of employees and suggested that we write an official letter. She hung up. Thanks for the warning, I said. I don't have any disciplinary records, and I won't. If you get a letter, tell me. Of course. Hold on. I put the phone in my pocket, I said to Ben. Attempts began through work. I'm not surprised. He handed me the sling. The calmer you are in response, the less likely it is that this will go too far. We were back at base by 4. Someone in the locker room turned on the radio. Someone was joking about Friday. I changed clothes, put my tools away. The phone blinked again. A message from cousin Melissa Ellie. We met twice at barbecues. Nick, hi. This is Ellie. Melissa is to blame for everything. I'm not making excuses. But she doesn't have a duet stroller. The old one broke. Maybe you know someone who would give one away cheap or for free. I'm not asking for her sake. I'm asking for the kids' sake. They have nothing to do with it. I read it a couple of times. There was an unpleasant feeling inside, a request under the pretext of children. I wrote, Hi, Ellie. I understand your concern. I am not a middleman or a supplier. I sent Melissa the contact details of services that give out baby things. Here are 2 links. I am not involved. Sent links to local aid center and charity network warehouse. Removed phone number. After our shift, Ben and I walked into Grumpy's. Friday night noise, the bar, the familiar menu. We sat at our table. The bartender poured us pints without asking. So, how are you holding up? Ben asked. Evenly. Work evens out. The house is in order. Scout is calm. Mom doesn't pressure. Those who think I have to do pressure do. I took a sip. I decided to record an answering machine with a clear text, so that I can tell everyone the same thing. Sounds like a plan. What do you think? You have reached Nick Coleman. For work matters, please email. For personal matters, please do not discuss private matters, and please do not call intermediaries. Urgent questions, please text. And that's it. Short and clear. A friend of ours, Joe, a mechanic from a nearby workshop, approached us. Nick, I heard the news. Hold on. We're with you. If you need it, the garage and tools are at your disposal. Thanks, Joe. I'm coping so far. And don't listen to those who start real men. I've been through this. You don't have to play a role that is imposed on you. He patted me on the shoulder and left. Ben looked. Are you surprised how many people have stories on the same topic? Not anymore. They just didn't tell me before. We sat for about 20 minutes, then went our separate ways. I didn't want to drag out the evening. On the way home, I stopped at the co-op, bought some eggs, some greens, and a bag of food for Scout. At the checkout, the cashier asked, A paper bag? Yes. At home, I immediately recorded an answering machine. The text took 20 seconds. I listened to it again dry, without emotion. I left it. Then I turned on my laptop and wrote a short document, communication policy. It doesn't sound funny, but it's useful. Points. Don't enter the house without an invitation. Hand over things on the porch. Correspondence text only. No meetings without an agenda. At 9, an email arrived from Pastor Thomas's assistant. Polite, with a list of resources, food aid, counseling, a list of shelters, a contact for a volunteer for children's items. I replied, Thank you, I forwarded it. And I did forward it to Melissa in a short email with no comment. At 9:30, my mother called. I couldn't help myself, she said. How are you? It's fine. They pestered me through the church. They tried through work. I beat them all off. I installed an answering machine. Okay? Come over for lunch on Sunday. I'll make chicken and salad. And bring the keys to the barn. Let's see your old lock. Maybe we can change it together. Agreed. And one more thing. She paused. If Carolina calls me, I'll say that I only communicate with you. Don't worry. Thank you, Mom. The night passed quietly. The camera by the door sent only one notification: a neighbor took out the trash. In the morning, I woke up early and went for a run around the lake. On the trail were the same faces as always. A girl in a green City Parks jacket ran towards me, waved her hand. I nodded and ran on. I spent Saturday at home. I took out old boxes, tidied up the shelving, sorted out the tools. At lunchtime, Rick, the lawyer the union had referred me to, called. Nick, hi. I've read about your situation. Just in case, I recommend keeping a contact log. Who called, date, gist of the conversation. If there are attempts to make you look bad at work or file a lawsuit, the log will come in handy. And don't get into conversations where you're provoked into being harsh. I already do. I save the correspondence. The phone is on answering machine. I don't let anyone into the house. True. And one more thing. If there are attempts to come uninvited and make a scene, don't open the door. The camera is recording, that's enough. Accepted. After the call, I made an omelet, ate it in the kitchen, and scrolled through the news. The phone buzzed again. Ellie wrote, "Thanks for the links. Found a crib drop-off point. Sorry if I offended you." I replied, "It's okay. Glad you found it," and put the phone away. In the afternoon, I stopped by a building materials store, picked up a new cylinder for the shed, a couple of packs of screws, gloves. At the next counter, a woman was choosing tiles, arguing with her husband about the color of the grout. I realized that I could watch this calmly, without envy and without the desire to prove anything. By evening, another text message came from a stranger. "Are you aware that Melissa doesn't sleep well? You're not human if you leave her." I didn't answer. I added the number to the Do Not Disturb list. The camera by the door sent a notification at 7:58 p.m. A courier had left a box of refrigerator filters. I carried it into the kitchen and put it in the pantry. That night, I went out for a short walk with Scout. The air was damp and quiet. The occasional car could be heard in the distance. My neighbor Jamal was unloading tools from the trunk and waved to me. We exchanged a few words about the weather. Ordinary life continued nearby, and that helped. On Sunday afternoon, I stopped by my mother's, and we changed the lock on the shed in 20 minutes. She brought me a jar of pickles and a container of soup. "It's enough for a week," she said. "Thank you." On the way back, I stopped by a lake. Two elderly men were sitting on a bench, sharing a thermos. A boy was holding a small fishing rod. I sat there for 5 minutes, looked at the water, and went home. In the evening, a letter arrived from Kelly. There was no official letter to HR. The calls have stopped. If anything changes, I will let you know. I replied, "Thank you," and closed the laptop. The storm came at night. First the wind, then a wall of rain and short, frequent flashes. At 3:40, the phone exploded with alarms. Emergency power outages in the southeast of the city, a cliff on the alley behind 46th, a tree on the line near the school. Kendra sent a general channel. Assemble at the depot at 4:30, crews be on the line, coffee maker on. I threw a bag of dry gloves, a thermos, and a couple of candy bars into the pickup. Scout raised his head, I petted him, and said I'd be back by evening. The streets were still roaring. The roads were empty, only the occasional blue gleam at intersections where road workers were already working. The depot smelled of coffee and wet cloth. Ben was handing out assignments. "Coleman, you're with me. We'll take the tower, the saw, the struts. First, 46th and 10th, there's a branch hanging on the phase. Then to the school on Minnehaha. Kendra holds the map. We move by priorities." The foreman repeated the protocol, always fastened, work at tree roots only after assessment, sawing only in a helmet and with a partner. We checked the carabiners, harnesses, safety ropes, tools. Kendra went out in a raincoat straight to the loading dock. "Guys, the entire eastern side is in applications. Keep the radio on channel 1. If there is voltage, immediately call me, no heroics. The police will close the street if necessary." By 5, we were already there. On the 46th, a poplar lay on the upper line and pulled the wire down. The yard is private, the gates are open, a lamp from the generator is burning on the porch. A man in a hoodie waved to us and shouted that his children were sleeping on the second floor. Ben unfolded the cones, I pulled the tape, installed the grounding. We checked for voltage, called an additional team to check below. We turned on the saw. The wind tugged at the branches, the rain hit the visor. The work was slow, but without surprises. When the sag went away, I secured the spacer, raised the line to the standard height, installed a temporary anchor. "Thanks, guys," the man said as the lights clicked on in their house. "Want some coffee?" "Thanks, we'll go further," Ben replied. "Keep the kids out of the yard until the branches are cleared." The next point is the school. On the sports ground, a maple tree leaned right towards the line, its branches touching the wires. The principal was already standing at the gate in a raincoat with a hood, pointing at the trees. "We've been given the go-ahead to close the area until lunch," she said. "Do what you have to do." We raised the boom. I secured myself, sawed off 3 heavy branches, and pulled them down with a rope. The utility workers were bustling about in the field picking up branches, loading them into a bucket. At 9, the sun came out, the rain eased. The addresses wheezed on the radio one after another. After 10, we drove to the next spot, an alley between Minnehaha and 43rd. The wire there was sagging below the norm. The neighboring store was worried about the trucks. We measured the gaps, installed additional hangers. People from the houses stood on the porches with mugs, filming on their phones. A teenager in a baseball cap approached. "Is it long?" "An hour," Ben said. "Stay away from the markings." We finished in 40 minutes. Ben adjusted the map. Kendra gave a new address, Node by the grocery store, complaints of sparking at night. We pulled up to a grocery store on Minnehaha. The fire truck was already there, lights flashing. The senior said the sparking was from a guy line branch, no fire. We inspected it, removed the burnt bark, tightened the fasteners. The owner of the store came out and handed us a paper bag with hot buns. "Take it, please. You helped us out." "Thanks," Ben said. "We'll take 1 each." We sat in the cabin. I bit into a bun. Warmth went through my stomach. I felt better. By midday, the city had warmed up a bit. The wind was quieter. Puddles were by the curbs. We were turning to another address when I saw a familiar silhouette on the sidewalk. A big t-shirt, gray sneakers, a paper cup, hands shaking. Melissa. Her belly was already visible. She was standing to the side of the road markings and trying to catch my eye. Ben noticed and asked briefly, "Yours?" "Yes, I'll figure it out myself." 5 minutes, no more. We parked the car in a safe area. I went down and came within a couple of steps. The crews around were dispersing to their tasks. Some were unrolling the tape, some were checking the supports. "Nick," she said, looking over my shoulder, "I've been waiting for you. I don't have any options. Ryan left. He said he needed to think about it, and that's it. I stayed at a friend's for 2 nights. They can't take it anymore." She sobbed and fell silent, as if she didn't want to burst into tears on the street. "I'm on shift," I said. "Get to the point." "I have nowhere to live. No money. I'm pregnant. You know, I'm not asking for anything big. Just a couple of weeks. I'll be quiet. You know me." She spoke quickly, looking away, then at the ground. "I won't let you into the house," I said evenly. "You took my things. You know my conditions. Housing and money, no. Here's a list of services." I took a folded sheet of paper with addresses and phone numbers out of my pocket. City shelters, a pregnancy center, legal aid, distribution of children's things, contact information for a volunteer the pastor sent. "There are options here. Contact them." "Are you really going to say that and leave?" She wasn't looking at me, but somewhere to the side. "We were together for 6 years. These 6 years don't give you the right to move back in," I said. "You made your decision. The baby has a father. His name is Ryan. Contact him." "He's not here. He's not answering." His voice broke. "He said we'd move, that we'd rent a place. He took my card. There's 0 on it." "Is this a crime?" I asked. "Write a statement. Here's the address of the station." I added the address of the police department to the sheet of paper. "I'm not your financial plan." She gripped the glass tighter, her knuckles turning white. "Are you really that cold?" "I am consistent." I pointed to the tape that blocked the approach to the support. "There is work here. I will not discuss this on the street. If you need a list, you have it. I do not contact you except by mail. If you want, send 1 letter with a specific question. I will answer yes or no. That's all." "Nick." She took a step, but I raised my palm. "Will you at least let me sleep on the couch? 1 night?" "No." We stood in silence. The wind was howling. Someone was honking in the distance. The team was moving cones. Ben nodded to me. "It's time." "Be careful," I said. Don't go near the markings. And don't stay under the trees if it starts again. Take this piece of paper. I handed her the paper. She took it, folded it, and put it in her pocket. You'll regret it, she said quietly, but not threateningly. More like a fact she wanted to say. I've already weighed everything, I replied and went to the car. Ben asked briefly. Fine. Fine. Let's move on. Until 3 o'clock, we closed one point after another. Somewhere there was a cliff, somewhere there was some noise, somewhere there were just branches stuck on the wires. I didn't replay the conversation. It was technically over. Kendra announced on the radio that the east of the city was almost back, now the north. We took the application from the industrial zone. There, at the site, a security guard met us, pointed to a pole behind the warehouse. Everything was typical. The guy line had sagged, the fasteners were old. They replaced it, put in a temporary brace, and agreed that we would return in a week with a new one. By 4, there was a 10-minute pause. We stopped at a gas station. I bought water, Ben bought coffee. A message from Melissa arrived on my phone. No prefixes, no greeting. I called the center. There is a bed on Kedzie. The line is long today. They said to wait until midnight. I am not asking for money. If you can, bring a warm blanket. I have summer clothes. If not, I will write to Ellie. I read it twice. Answered. There are blankets in the center. Ask the volunteers. They will give you some. To get there, take bus 5 or 14. The address is on your sheet. Then decide with them. Nick. No judgment, no explanation. Sent and put the phone away. Ben looked at me. Can you handle it? Yes. I took a sip of water. I don't want to turn into an ATM or a backup airfield. She can decide. The city is not a desert. There are tons of programs here. Keep it like that. At 6 in the evening, we returned to the depot. We submitted reports, checked the balances. The foreman praised our team. Fast, no injuries, plan closed. Kendra gave me a printout for tomorrow to finish the north. I took off my wet gloves, changed into dry clothes. There was a container with buns on the table. The same owner brought more from the grocery store. The guys were laughing. Someone was already pouring tea. In this ordinariness, there was something that I wanted to preserve at any cost. At home, I changed my socks, fed Scout, and collapsed on the couch for 15 minutes. Then I got up, collected the trash, changed the filter in the sink. It was dripping yesterday. I put the washing machine on. The phone blinked again, a short, "Got there" from Melissa. I didn't answer. Before going to bed, my mother called. I told her briefly about the day and the meeting. She listened and asked if there had been any scenes. I said there had been none. You did the right thing, she said. You gave her information. She's an adult. It's her path from here on out. I know. Soup and pie on Sunday. Pick it up after your shift. I'll take it. I lay down and fell asleep almost immediately. I woke up to the alarm, and for the first time in a week, I didn't remember the night messages. In the morning, the accident feed had noticeably shortened. The city was returning to its normal schedule. I looked at the plan and saw that tomorrow I would have a couple of hours for the garage. That was handy. When I went out for a walk with Scout, my neighbor Jamal was standing by his car, wiping his windshield. He nodded toward my truck. I saw that you worked at night. Thank you. The house got electricity by 6 in the morning. It would have been bad without you. We were just doing our part, I said. He smiled and left. I looked at my house. Ordinary brick, porch, camera by the door glowing with a blue light. Everything was in order inside. I was going to keep it that way, no matter what. On Monday, my phone started vibrating before the alarm. First came a short one. You don't have to, but think of the little ones. Then a long one from another number. You're not like that, Nick. I remember you differently. After the third one, I transferred the calls to voicemail and turned on a filter for unknown calls. Scout stretched, I poured him some food and went to make coffee. While the kettle was boiling, I opened my laptop and created a folder in the cloud. Contacts M and family. I started putting screenshots of messages with the date and time in it. I turned on auto transcript for voicemail. In a separate document, I made a chronology, who called, when, what they asked for. Everything point by point without comments. At the depot, Ben nodded towards my phone. Again, yes, since last night. Transferred everything to the answering machine. I'll archive it. Okay, today we're taking the Northern Line. Let's stick to the schedule and no talking on the tower. We closed the first applications quickly. At 11, I had a window for a call with a lawyer. I got into the cab of the pickup, closed the door, turned on the speakerphone. Rick, hi. Situation update. Messages are pouring in. A couple of calls to HR last week. I'm recording everything. Questions where to go next, so that it doesn't turn into an exhausting circle. You're doing the right thing, Rick said. The contact log, screenshots, auto-decryption save everything. Second, check your credit reports and freeze your credit with 3 bureaus. Sometimes in these cases, they try to open cards in someone else's name. Third, a short written response to relatives once. I only communicate in writing regarding logistics of things and legal issues. Please do not call work. Send it to yourself with a copy. I'll do it today. Anything else on HR? I wrote a short letter to HR myself. The employee has no disciplinary violations. There may be attempts at external pressure. Please forward everything to the legal department. This is a protective step, and also do not meet one-on-one with people who are trying to reconcile. Only public places and only when necessary. Got it. Thank you. After lunch, we worked near the industrial zone. During the break, I went to the credit bureau's website, requested reports, and put a freeze on all 3. The system sent confirmations. I immediately set up notifications about any attempts to open a loan. At 2 o'clock, Kelly from HR called. Nick, I got a letter from a lawyer. We've noted everything. If there's anything about you, go straight to the legal department. And let me remind you, we have a zero-tolerance policy for harassment of employees. If anyone comes to the office, we'll call security. Received. Thank you for keeping us informed. After my shift, I stopped by the Union Hall on Lake Street. The room smelled of coffee and hot cardboard from the boxes of leaflets. At the desk sat Carla, our steward, a woman in her 50s, short hair, confident eyes. Sit down, Nick. She pushed a paper toward me. Let's go over personal safety and digital hygiene. We give that to everyone going through a divorce now, so that it doesn't come from an unexpected direction. We went through the checklist. Changing passwords done, 2-factor on, camera at the door installed, restricting access to accounts on shared devices set. Carla added a couple of points. Check if she has access to the tax cloud. And to insurance, there's a lot of sensitive stuff there. If you used a family plan with a therapist, request a new login. I'll check this evening. And one more thing. Carla tapped her pen on the table. People often try to put pressure through the team. If someone comes and starts to find out, we will tell that person to leave the territory. We have a rule for this. You work calmly. Thank you, Carla. On my way out, I saw an invitation to a divorce and breakup support group on the bulletin board. Thursday, 7 p.m., Library Lounge. I took a picture of the sign, hesitant to sign up. I decided to talk to a therapist first. At home, I laid out the documents and wrote a letter to Caroline and Ellie at the same time. The text contained 3 sentences. Communication with me is only in writing via email. Subject: logistics of things and legal issues. I consider calls to work and HR unacceptable. Please comply. I copied it to myself and Rick. Sent it. Half an hour later, Ellie replied, "Got it. I won't call again. Thanks for the links then." Silence from Carolina. At 7, the online session with Dr. Larson began. She turned on the camera, smiled briefly. "Nick, how's your week?" The messages come in waves. I met Melissa on the street during a storm. She asked to let me in. I refused. Today, I froze the loan. The union gave me a safety checklist. I feel tired from the pressure, but I sleep well. It's good that you're sleeping. Let's practice short boundary phrases. You're already using one. The child has a father. You need 2 or 3 more so as not to waste yourself on explanations. For example, I don't discuss personal matters, contact the services. I can only answer a specific logistical question yes/no. Repeat them the same way without additional text. I can handle it. Now about guilt. What does it work on? To the phrases, children have nothing to do with it, and real men. The old scenario kicks in your head, help at any cost. Then we will attach a stop switch to these phrases. Every time you hear them, internally say your position. I do not cause harm. I am not obliged to fulfill other people's promises. I take legal and safe steps. These are neutral statements. They reduce the markup. Will you try? Yes. And one more thing. You notice that you do a lot with your hands: repairs, sorting, running with the dog. It helps the nervous system. Leave it in the schedule. Just don't overload yourself with night shifts unless asked. Okay. The session lasted 33 minutes. We agreed on the following Thursday. I closed my laptop and realized that I really needed the list of phrases on paper. I wrote them down with a marker on a small sheet of paper and put them in my jacket pocket. On Tuesday after my shift, I took Scout to the dog park on Minnehaha. It was a warm evening. At the entrance, I met my neighbor Nate, who was about 48 and worked in logistics. We often crossed paths while jogging. I heard from Joe that you're alone now, he said. Hanging up? I work, sleep, eat. I close the documents. The rest is according to the rules. I went through a divorce 10 years ago. Here's some advice. Don't argue with those who come with a ready-made verdict. Their story is not about you. And the second piece of advice, talk to an accountant about your tax status. If you had a joint one, check that there are no loose ends. Thank you, I haven't thought about taxes yet. I'll set a task for the week. We sat on the bench, the dogs running around the yard, dust rising from their paws. Nate told me about the time his ex-wife's assistant tried to take tools from the garage, and he simply showed me the receipt and the list, closing the topic. I made a mental note, keep the receipts. On Wednesday morning, a letter arrived from Caroline. Short and formal. Received your message. Regretfully, I note that you are refusing to participate in the fate of the children to whom you had an emotional connection. I will no longer call work. Caroline Harper. I forwarded the letter to Rick and closed the tab. No comment. Ben called in the afternoon. On Saturday, we will be helping volunteers at the city services warehouse loading generators for the district. Will you come? I'll go. Also, Friday is a shortened day. You'll have time to take care of the house. I took a half day off on Friday. I went to see the accountant who handles some of our company's employees. A woman named Erin opened her laptop and laid out forms in front of me. You and your wife filed jointly. Now you file separately. Check your salary deductions to make sure there is no underpayment by the end of the year. And if you had medical expenses for both of you before, recalculate. We went through the steps. I made changes to my employer records. Erin advised me to create a separate folder called Taxes 2025 Inches and put all my home and work receipts in there. I did just that evening. On Saturday, Ben, 2 other guys, and I were loading some portable generators onto a warehouse ramp. The guy on duty from the city signed for them. I saw a familiar face at the warehouse, Mike, a volunteer who had helped out at the job fair before. He said hello and, if your friends need cots, strollers, we are currently preparing to distribute them. Pass them on if necessary. I'll only pass it on through general addresses, I said. I personally don't pick it up or deliver it. That's right. On Sunday, when I stopped by my mother's for soup, I showed her the list of stop phrases. She read it and put it aside. Good ones. Keep them on your phone. Make them your wallpaper, she said. And promise me one thing. Don't get bitter. Take breaks when you feel tired. I promise. On Monday, Louis from the crew called me and asked me to come to Grumpy's that evening. Matt from another company was there. He had a similar experience a year ago. We sat down at a table, got a soda. We had an early shift the next morning. People will provoke you to explain, Matt said. Don't explain. Write briefly, like a lawyer teaches. And remember, help is not always money and protection. Sometimes help is well-directed links. I already do that, I replied. That same evening, an email arrived from Melissa. More text than usual. I'm at the center on Kedzie. The line for the maternity room is moving slowly. Ryan isn't responding. I was rejected for one program because I still have income from my previous job, but I don't have the hours. I'm waiting. If you can, give me the contact information for a lawyer for a consultation. I'm not asking for anything else. I stared at the screen for a long time. I responded with 2 lines. My lawyer does not take your side in the conflict of interest. Free consultations are available at the University Legal Clinic. Address and phone, good luck. I pressed send, without hold on and without I'm sorry. I no longer wanted to play the emotional formulas that were expected of me. The phone was silent during the night. The door camera sent a notification a courier had left a small package. In the morning I looked. New safety belts for the saw blade had arrived. At work, Ben said, "You look calmer. It looks like the system is working." It works. I do my own thing and don't take someone else's. The rest doesn't concern me. I opened my notebook and wrote down for today. Freezing loans checking. Taxes set up. Therapy Thursday 19 o'clock. Support group not yet. I put a check mark next to answered M. About legal assistance. Kelly called at lunch. I formally record. There have been no calls about you. Everything is quiet. Excellent. Thank you. On Saturday morning, I sorted through my mail, put the laundry on, and realized I was running low on yard gloves and a refrigerator filter. On my to-do list, I wrote down Target gloves, filter, trash bags, Scout food. I set my alarm for an hour and a half so I wouldn't wander aimlessly and headed to Hiawatha. The parking lot was half full of minivans. At the entrance, a boy was whining about wanting candy. His mother kept saying, "First a list, then we'll see." I grabbed a red cart, scrolled through a photo of the filter I needed on my phone, and headed to the appliances section. A salesperson in a red t-shirt helped me choose a model. I checked the number, put the box in the cart, and headed to the hardware aisle to get bags and oven cleaner. The Caribou coffee booth inside was noisy and smelled of cinnamon. I paused for a minute to decide whether to buy coffee or not. I decided not to buy it, to get it done faster. I tried on 2 pairs of gloves at the gardening equipment section and took the thick ones with rubber inserts. The list still included food for Scout and plastic containers for the garage. As I turned toward the baby aisle, I saw her. A tandem stroller took up almost half the aisle. One child was fussy, the other was already crying. Melissa was arranging a stack of coupons and a leaflet on her lap. Her hair was pulled back, she was wearing jeans and a faded t-shirt. She looked tired. She glanced at the price tags, then the coupons, then the children. There were jars of baby food and a package of discounted diapers in her basket. We didn't make eye contact. I stopped at the rack of baby bottles and pretended to read the labels. An employee with a Sarah badge walked by and asked Melissa, "Do you need help finding something? Do you still have the coupon for this formula?" Melissa pointed to the box. "I was told until the end of the week." "Let me take a look." The employee took the box and scanned it. Yes, the coupon is active, but it doesn't add up with the second one, only one per position. Got it. Melissa's voice was calm, not trying to make a scene. Then I'll take this one and this one with a coupon. The children began to whine again. She shoved a pacifier into one, and another reached for a brightly colored soft book on the shelf. Melissa picked it up, looked at the price, and put it back. She stood there for a few seconds, breathing. Then she pushed the stroller further down the row. I stayed where I was. An old habit kicked in. Walk over, grab the top package, push the cart, offer to take the box to the checkout. I pulled the note I'd written after my session with the therapist out of my pocket and quickly scanned the 3 phrases. I don't discuss personal matters, contact services, yes/no for specifics. There was no request. I took a step back and headed toward the dog food. The usual brand was not on the shelf. I asked the employee. They didn't deliver it today, he said. There is an analog. The composition is almost the same, this line. I read the ingredients. It fits. I took 2 packages. Next to me, a man was filling jars with baby food and commenting on the prices to himself. I caught myself listening to someone else's household arithmetic and calming down as if from white noise. A typical Saturday Target, typical lists and missing items. It was a familiar environment. A queue formed at the self-service. I chose a regular checkout, where a middle-aged woman with a Marcia badge was sitting. She was scanning items and simultaneously talking to the previous customer about the weather and discounts. It was my turn. Gloves, filter, bags, feed, containers, she said. Is there a discount on the app? Yes, here it is. I showed the barcode. Great. She punched it and looked at me over her glasses. There are a lot of families with children today. For some reason, everyone remembers about coupons at the last minute. I saw it. It doesn't surprise me. Are you from the north side of town? You have an electric company logo on your baseball cap. Yes, we work on request. There were many trips after the storm. Thank you for leaving at night. She took the card from me and handed back the check. Have a nice day. And to you too. As I was leaving, I noticed Melissa standing in line at the self-checkout counter. One hand on the wheelchair, the other scanning items. She already had the coupons in the app. I could see them on the screen. I didn't hold my gaze and walked to the parking lot. I loaded the bags into the truck, got in, and turned on the heater. For about 30 seconds, I just sat there and breathed, as Dr. Larson taught me. Inhale for 4, exhale for 6. My phone blinked with a notification from the camera. The delivery guy had left a box at the door, new brushes for the drill. I stopped at the co-op on the way. I bought apples, milk, bread. I met my neighbor Nate at the coffee stand. How are you? He asked. You look calmer than you did a week ago. Got things in order. Bills, passwords, camera by the door, lawyer, therapist. Just shopping today. Okay? He took the bag of buns. My wife and I are grilling in the backyard tomorrow. If you want, stop by for an hour, no strings attached. There will be hot dogs and corn. I'll have a look at the shift. Thank you. The first thing I did when I got home was change the filter in the refrigerator. I took off the old one, put in a new one, and pressed the reset button on the panel. The water started flowing smoothly. Then I put the bags under the sink, laid out the containers in the garage, and hung up the gloves. Scout got new food. He sniffed it first, then ate it without complaint. I checked off everything I bought. I also took the boxes out to the trash. By evening, I called my mother. We talked about the market. She told me that the seller with vegetables started to hold the price. We need to look for an alternative in the next row. Then she asked, how did you cope today? Saw Melissa in the store. Didn't come up to her. Did the shopping and went home. Everything was fine. Good. Mom was silent. I'm glad you're holding the line. I'm having a roast tomorrow. If there's any left, I'll bring a container. I would be grateful. After the conversation, I sat down at the table and opened my laptop. I set a reminder for Monday. Call the legal clinic to clarify hours. Check the freeze on loans. Buy a leash for Scout. Then I opened the contact log document and added a line. Saturday, Target, I contact, no conversation. I wrote this down not because I expected anything, but so that I wouldn't have to guess later where and when we crossed paths. Ben called in the evening. Tomorrow morning, we're heading north, one address. Want to stop by the Union Hall later? There's a safety meeting there, short. Zidu. And one more thing. He paused. I heard from friends that the queue at the center on Kedzie has normalized. You don't need this, just as a reference. The system has started to cope. Got it. I still can't get into it. Understand. After the call, I opened a video with exercises for the shoulders. My body was tired after a week on the platform. I did 10 minutes of stretching, then went out with Scout to the circle. At the corner, I met a woman with a beagle. We looked at each other, nodded. A normal evening walk, no conversations, and no topics. When I got back, I turned on the dishwasher and took apart the tool shelf. I stacked the drills by size, labeled the fastener container with a marker, and put the woodworking kit aside. I stopped for a second and realized that I was tired as if I had had a normal day. Shopping, household items, a walk, tidying up the garage. No adrenaline rush. That's how it should be. The phone blinked. A letter from the car sharing service. Card expiration date updated. Good, I changed the card last week. Nothing else. The camera by the door was silent. Before going to bed, I opened the note with the phrases and read them out loud so that my voice would associate with the words. Then I put the paper back in my wallet. The calendar for tomorrow said, Departure 8 o'clock north, Union Hall 12:30 security, call accountant deductions. Everything is clear, no surprises. On Sunday morning, we quickly closed the address the branch was pressing on the line near the warehouse. I cut, Ben was insuring. The job took less than an hour. On the way back, we stopped at the hall. Carla gave a short lecture. Falls at height in the neighboring district and how to avoid them. She showed a couple of photos of non-standard fasteners, said in a normal voice, "We don't do that. Never." We signed the log. On the way out, I met Matt, the same guy from the neighboring company. "How do you like a day without unnecessary conversations?" he asked. "It's a good day. Very good indeed. That's how it should be." He nodded at my badge. "If you want, the team runs around the lake on Wednesday. Slowly, just for the head. I will think." I returned home, heated up the soup that my mother had brought, and sliced some bread. Scout lay down next to me and put his muzzle on his paws. I ate and thought about how yesterday at the store I had Chosengo to the checkout, not to the conversation. Without triumph and without bitterness. Just chose. After lunch, I put a new cord on the trimmer so I could trim the grass next weekend. I checked my phone for a reminder for Thursday, a session with a therapist. I opened a message from the union. There would be an off-site training session on Friday at a site near the park, marked recommended. I signed up. On Monday after my shift, I stopped by the co-op to get groceries. I needed milk, salad mix, oatmeal, and a bag of rice. It was already getting dark in the parking lot. The streetlights were giving off a steady light. I turned off the pickup, grabbed a reusable bag, went inside, quickly typed up a list, and came back. I got behind the wheel, turned the key, the relay clicked, and silence. Again, the same result. The battery icon on the dashboard blinked. I cursed briefly, exhaled, and opened the glove compartment. There were jumper cables, gloves, and a small flashlight. I opened the hood and looked at the terminals. The minus was slightly oxidized, but not critically. I decided that the battery was dead. Either I left the lamp in the cabin, or the battery was already in its last season. "Need help?" I heard a female voice. I turned around. There was a woman standing by the car next to me, wearing a green jacket with a patch that read, City of Minneapolis Forestry. She had the same logo on her baseball cap. I'd seen her before, on the jogging track by the lake. We just nodded at each other. "I think so," I said. "The battery isn't pulling. I have the wires. I've got a work truck here." She pointed to a white Ranger with flashing lights and orange cones in the back. "Let's light a cigarette. I'm Jade." "Nick, thanks for stopping." We brought her car nose to nose with mine. She deftly threw the hood up and secured it. I handed over the wires. We connected the order, plus to plus, minus to ground. She nodded. "The factories." I turned the key. The starter pulled. The engine caught. I revved it up to charge the generator. Jade removed the terminals, coiled the wires, and handed them to me. "You could have waited," I said. "I would have disconnected it myself." "It's all right. I do it 10 times a month when I'm out and about. People often forget their dimensions when they're parked or listening to the radio." She smiled. "Your battery isn't new." "Yes, I'll take it at the end of the week until it survives. Thank you." "No problem." She closed the hood of her truck. You work south of town? You have an IBU chevron on your jacket. Yes, line electrician. Our team is covering the southeast. Then you may have already complained about our requests. She nodded at the forestry logo. We sometimes write to your department when branches enter the security zone near the wires. It's better to scold in the application than to catch a branch on the wire. Are you on the city maples and ash trees? On all city trees. Plus the private sector if the branch goes to the line. Now there are many cuts due to ash disease, plus complaints after storms. We were standing between the cars, the hoods closed, my engine running. People were passing by with carts. No one lingered. Thanks again, I said. I owe you some coffee. You'll take it into account for the future, she answered. I sometimes run to Harriet's in the mornings if I'm not on duty. Are you there too? Yes. Saw you a couple of times. See you then. She turned to her car, then stopped. Just in case. If tomorrow morning it still doesn't start, don't torture me. The battery could be completely dead. Put in a new one. And check the terminal, there's a coating there. Get a wire brush and soda from home. I will do it. She waved her hand and drove away. I left the engine running for another 5 minutes. I drove closer to the house so as not to drag the wires in the morning. I carried the bag with milk and oatmeal to the kitchen, put the groceries away, poured water for Scout, and drank some tea myself. I wrote a note in my phone. Wednesday, buy a battery, brush, soda, grease for terminals. In the morning, the engine caught with difficulty. I decided not to wait, and after the shift to visit a friend at the auto shop. Ben listened to the starter turning and said, "Take AGM for 750 cold, and you will forget about it for 3 winters. I will help you to transfer it in the evening." That's what we did. I bought a battery. We installed it in the depot parking lot. I cleaned the terminals, tightened them, lubricated them. The car started without any effort. I noted the date in my notebook to remember the term. On Wednesday morning, I saw Jade on the lake running track. She was running at her own pace, headphones in, hair up. As we passed, she removed one earphone. "How's the battery?" she asked without preamble. "New. Installed yesterday. Thanks for the advice." "Excellent. An old elm fell in our park yesterday. We ran until midnight." She smiled briefly. "Run, I won't hold you up." "See you," I said, and ran on. I checked my phone. "Tell Jade thanks coffee on credit." On Thursday, after my therapist's appointment, I got a text from an unfamiliar number. "This is Jade from City Parks. I have your number from the business card you put on the line that day. If there's a weird line on Minnehaha by the school, we'll be there tomorrow. Can you confirm that it's your line and not cable?" I asked again. "There are 2 lines at the school. The top one is ours, the bottom one is cable and internet. Give me the address and the nearest support. I'll put a note in the control room so there are no overlaps." She sent an address and a photo of the pole with a number. I sent Kendra a short email. "City foresters will be clearing maple at pole 4612 Minnehaha tomorrow. They're below our zone, but close. Please mark that the team is aware." Kendra responded okay and sent a copy to the foreman. I forwarded it to Jade. Marked in the system. "Work on your project. If anything happens, call us. We'll be there 10:12. This is where the correspondence ended. On Friday, we were really close. By 10, we had finished 2 addresses and pulled up to look at their area. Jade was standing by the cones, talking to a tenant. Her crew was securing ropes to a maple tree. A worker was climbing on a safety rope. They were marking branches with paint so as not to cut off too much. Everything was perfect. I stayed in the car so as not to interfere. A couple of minutes later, she came up, knocked on the window. I rolled it down. "We'll be done in an hour," she said. "Filing without going into your security zone. If the wind picks up, we'll stop." Accepted. We have something else further down the list. If there is an intersection, through the dispatcher. Thank you. She stood for a second. "Is coffee on credit valid?" "Certainly." "Then when you have a leisurely day, I sometimes get a latte to go from Spy House on 54th, or just a drab. Text per day. My schedule is flexible. Agreed. She returned to her team. We left for the next address. The radio was sending out the usual signals. I thought that I hadn't spoken to anyone new outside of work and family for a long time, and that this brief exchange about the battery and the branches had gone smoothly. On Friday evening, I got one quick text from her. Thanks for notifying the control room. The cut was safe. Will you be at the lake this weekend? I replied. Sunday morning, lap at 8. She wrote, maybe we'll cross paths. I spent Saturday at home. I mowed the grass, fixed the hinge on the gate, changed the gasket on the hose. In the evening, I stopped by my mother's to pick up a container with roast. She asked how the week had been. I said that it had been calm. My mother nodded and didn't ask for details. On Sunday at 8, I went out to the lake. It was fresh. Familiar faces were running on the path. At the second kilometer, I caught up with Jade from behind. Good morning, she said. Are you at your pace, or is there room for conversation? Yes, I dropped a little. How are your trees? 3 accidents on Saturday. 1 elm, 1 ash, 1 maple, where people decided to help the saw without insurance. They came, stopped it, finished it according to the rules. Where are you this week? East of the city, closer to the airport. Normal prevention. I see. She looked ahead. Coffee after the lap? Yes. Spy House on Nicollet? It will do. I'll take the black one. We ran there without talking. The Spy House hall was half empty. Someone was working on a laptop. Someone was reading a newspaper. We took drinks and sat by the window. Tell me a little about yourself, she said. Nothing extra. I'm Jade Wilson, 41, city arborist, trees and parks. Live in Richfield, near the bus line. Run, walk a lot, drink coffee, cook too rarely. Nick Coleman, 33, lineman, IBU. Live in the South, dog scout. Like a tidy garage, mom's cutlets, and a good night's sleep. Recently divorced. No drama, just the facts. She nodded, her expression unchanged. Thank you for speaking up. I am also without drama. There was a marriage a long time ago. Now work and simple things. We didn't go into personal details. We talked about the city, about Lake Bide Makaska, about the new bike paths, about how to clean the steps in winter. She spoke briefly, to the point. I caught myself listening and not thinking that I needed to explain or prove anything. It's time to go back, she said, looking at her watch. I have a request at the neighboring park at 9. Thanks for the coffee. Coffee on credit is closed. Happy to help. See you at the lake. If not at the lake, then in a tree. She smiled and left. I went outside. It was clear. People were walking with paper cups in their hands. I got into the pickup, put the receipt in the glove compartment so it wouldn't be lying around. My phone showed a message from Ben. Meeting in the tech room tomorrow. Don't forget your helmet. I said okay and went home. The day passed quietly. I vacuumed the carpets, wiped the shelves, checked the smoke detector. I wrote down in my notebook for the week. Tuesday taxes withholding checked. Thursday therapy 7 p.m. Saturday garage sorting fasteners. In the evening, I went out to the lake with Scout. 3 students were sitting on a bench, arguing about baseball. There were boats on the water. I made a circle and came back. On Monday morning, Ben and I went to the airport for a checkup. On the way, he asked, that green jacket guy, one of the city guys, I saw her helping you in the parking lot last week. Yes, Jade, dendrologist. She lit up my cigarette until my battery died completely. Then we met at the lake. Fine. People who know what they're doing are our people. Ben chuckled. Just don't skip steps. And remember your rules. I remember. We were done by lunchtime. On the way back, I caught myself in a calm that had been going on for days. Work, dog, home, to-do lists, and small talk with people who also had schedules and responsibilities. No miracles or sudden turns. On Tuesday morning, Ben and I got a list of preventative measures. 3 airport addresses, and 1 residential outing on Noxter Avenue. The clipboard had a note from the Parks Department. City crew in progress, possible proximity to power lines. I realized it was Jade's lot. "We'll start with Noxter," Ben said. "The parking attendants have a window from 10 to 12. We'll check their markings, check our mounts, and then we'll move on to the industrial area." We arrived at a quiet neighborhood, brick houses, short driveways, trees in front of each yard. At number 412, there were cones, ropes, and a white pickup with an orange flashing light. Jade was talking to the elderly owner. A worker on a rope was marking the treetops with colored tape. "Good morning," Jade said as we approached. "We're going to be trimming 3 maple branches, all below your area but close to the guy. Trimming facing the yard, belaying." "We're on control," Ben replied. "If anything approaches the line, you give the signal to stop." The owner of the house introduced herself as Mrs. Hudson. She said that her husband and she had planted the maple tree 40 years ago, and now it was reaching out to the street. "I want him to live," she said. "But the wires scare me too. Thank you for coming." Ben and I checked the fastenings on the support, tightened the guy rope, put a temporary stop so that the branch would not accidentally rest on the wire. Jade gave her boyfriend the command. He carefully removed the first branch, tightened the rope, lowered it to the lawn. Everything went according to the rules. "You have a clean cut," Ben said after the second hang. "No jagged edges, the tree won't get sick." "That's what we teach," Jade replied. "People often go in with a saw and then call us when it's too late." The third branch was removed in the most careful way. They lifted it on a sling, set the direction, and left the line. I fixed everything with my eyes and understood that I trusted this team. No tricks, just consistent steps. By 11, we were finished. Jade took off her gloves. "Thank you for coordinating," she said. "Mrs. Hudson, we'll just have to process the sections, that's all." "Thank you all," the hostess replied. "I'll bake some cookies, just bring a container by the evening." "We're in the park until 7, Jade smiled. "If we make it, we'll stop by." Ben and I walked across the road to our opposite pylon to replace the old insulator and tighten the bolts. I climbed, Ben belayed. The job took 20 minutes. When I got down, my phone flashed a message from Kelly. "No official requests to HR. No repeat calls. Matter closed." I replied with a short "thank you" and put the phone away. "It's fresh," Ben said. "Let's head to the airport line." We worked 2 industrial addresses, had lunch at a small sandwich joint. The bartender knew Ben by name, winked at me when he heard lineman. We got a Reuben and the soup of the day. Ben looked at me. "You look normal. How's your head?" "It doesn't bother me. The schedule helps. And the fact that HR dropped the topic also helps." "Okay, if there's anything legal, keep me in copy. I know how to explain to the boss that personal is not about work." "I know." By 2, we were back at Noxter for the second case. A guy line was sagging at a house a block away. The owner pointed to the cable, but the sag was ours. We tightened it up and scheduled a replacement bracket for a month. While I was unscrewing the tool, a man in a postal service uniform came out of the house next door. "Guys, my mom lives next door," he said. "Her smoke detector is beeping. I changed the battery, but it's still beeping. Can you take a look after your shift? Not while you're working, just in case you're passing by." "We're not allowed as a team," Ben replied, "but I can give you the number of a volunteer team that helps the elderly with things like that. Or Nick could drop in as a private citizen if he has time." "Give me your contact information," I said, "and the address." He dictated. I wrote it down, but didn't make any arrangements for the evening. Internal rule: first home, then decisions. After my shift, I stopped by home, walked scout, showered, had dinner. There were 2 voicemails on the answering machine, a reminder from the local library about the Home and Energy meeting on Wednesday evening, and an invitation from the union to a training session by the lake. I recorded, Wednesday, library, 6:30 p.m. energy efficiency. I thought I'd just listen to something about insulation and tariffs. The mail brought the usual bills and one letter from the health insurance company. A notice that the family plan had been disconnected. My portion was active. I took a photo and put it in the insurance folder. Around 8 o'clock, I got a text from Melissa. Can I pick up the box of old dishes and baking pans? Let me know when. I replied, Thursday, 6 o'clock, 8 p.m. package on the porch. Don't ring the doorbell. I sent it and set a reminder for Thursday. Wednesday. After work, I went to the library. There were about 20 people in the room. Pensioners, a couple of young couples, several utility workers. The meeting was led by an engineer from the city. The topic was how to save electricity, how to choose the right insulation, how to calculate the cost-effectiveness of new windows. I listened and made notes. Motion sensors in the hallway. Gasket on the attic roof. Check for air leaks in the garage. After the presentation, there was a question block. A woman in the front row asked who to call if there were old aluminum wires in the house. The engineer replied that a licensed electrician was needed and gave a general recommendation. Someone asked about discounts on smart thermostats. I turned my head and saw Jade at the door. She paused to get out of the way, then came in and sat in the back. After the meeting, we crossed paths at the brochure stand. It's unexpected to see you here, she said. I came for a brochure about trees near houses, but ended up at a lecture about insulation. Useful. I wrote down a couple of things for the garage. I showed the sheet. I wanted to install a motion sensor in the passage. Now I know how to set it up. I have a timer for the light in the hallway. It makes me argue with myself less, Jade said. When you leave, it turns itself off. It works. We walked out to the parking lot. The evening was cool and even. The librarian was posting a notice about a school orchestra concert on the sign at the entrance. Jade nodded toward him. They are setting up a stage in our park for the weekend. If you are there, stop by the forestry stand. We will be handing out leaflets on planting trees. I'll think about it. I have a garage plan for Saturday. The garage is sacred. She smiled. Okay, I'll go. We have a complaints round tomorrow morning. Have a nice shift. And safe to you too. At home, I found old seals in a drawer, checked the attic door, there was a gap. I noted, buy new seal, stapler. I turned on the kettle. The phone blinked. A letter from a postal worker with Noxter. Volunteers have signed up Mom for Saturday. Thanks for the contact. I replied, great. Glad you found it. On Thursday, I bagged up everything Melissa asked for. Pans, a couple of bowls, towels. I labeled it kitchen with a Sharpie and brought it out to the porch by 6 p.m. The camera sent a notification at 6:47 p.m. She came over, picked up the bag, looked back, and walked away. A message came a minute later. Picked it up. Thanks. I didn't respond. On Friday, there was a short safety check at work. The foreman reminded us about falls at height. Ben and I checked the belts and carabiners. Someone joked about Friday protocol, no heroics. By midday, we had completed all the applications. Will you make it to your mom's today? Ben asked. Yes. She just has some seals lying around. She's been yelling at them for a year now. I'll change them at the same time. I stopped by my mother's, went up to the attic, installed a new seal and covers on the hatch. I checked the motion sensor in the hallway. She already had one. She brought me a container of soup and a jar of jam. We sat with tea, talked about the news of the area. A neighbor had a granddaughter. The post office removed the evening window, which is inconvenient for someone. How are your limits? She asked before I left. They're holding up. I picked up my things on Thursday without calling. It's quiet in HR. I made a seal. I'll install a sensor at my place this weekend. Good. Remember, don't explain too much. Yes. Saturday passed under the sign Garage. I laid out the fasteners by systems, labeled the boxes, removed the old shelf, screwed in a new one. I installed a motion sensor in the passage. The test worked. For lunch, I ate soup that my mother gave me. In the afternoon, I stopped at Home Depot for a sealant and a stapler, bought a set of attachments for a drill. In the parking lot, I ran into Jade. She was pushing a cart with bags of mulch and a roll of geotextile. "Hi," she said, stopping. "We're mulching the area by the stage in the park. We ran out of bags early. I'm just getting more. I'm going to get some sealant." I picked up the bag and a stapler. "A useful weekend." She glanced at my truck. "Is the battery still new?" "Yes. Starts up in a jiffy." "Then see you at the lake. I have rounds tomorrow morning, but I'll be out running by 9. I'll be there around 8:30. On Sunday, I set out for the lap at 8:20. Jade caught up with me toward the end of the first kilometer. We ran at the same pace, breathing evenly. The conversation was about little things: which sensor to install in the corridor, which routes are clearer of snow in the winter, where the best tire shop in the area works. "Have you ever thought about changing your home?" she asked as we walked toward the parking lot. "Not right now, in principle." "Sometimes." I shrugged. "I like my neighborhood. I'm thinking about a quieter street, like Noxter, for example. But it's not urgent. Right now, sustainability is more important to me." "I understand." She glanced away at the lake houses. "When you have a job and a routine, everything else falls into place." We took coffee to go. We drank it in silence, looking at the water. I said, "Thanks for the last help with the battery and the coordination on Noxter. It was just right." "Much depends on mutual respect," she replied. "Take care of yourself at your best." We said goodbye without further ado. I went home, turned on the washing machine, replaced the seal on the attic hatch, checked the sensor, it goes out after a minute, checked off the to-do list. It had been 6 months since the Noxter Avenue job. The city had weathered another storm, crews had restored power on time, parks had more young trees, and I had settled into a routine. Shifts on schedule, running on Sundays, dinners at Mom's every other week, occasional meetings with Jade for coffee after a run or a walk with Scout on her day off. Messages from Melissa's family had dried up. HR was silent. The camera by the door recorded only couriers and neighbors. In early April, a letter arrived from the court. The final divorce hearing was scheduled for the following Wednesday, in person, with the defendant attending via video link. Rick called. "Nothing complicated. The court needs facts. Separate residence, no property disputes, children born out of wedlock. The judge will ask a few questions, approve the agreement, and that's it." "Got it. What should I cook?" "Driver's license, 2 copies of the agreement, receipts that we already submitted. Come 15 minutes in advance. I'll check the folder." On Wednesday, we met at the entrance. The courtroom was small. The judge entered on time. The secretary secured the video link. Melissa appeared on the screen. She looked down next to her lawyer from the legal clinic. The judge asked formally, "Mr. Coleman, do you confirm the filing? Living apart for more than 6 months. No property disputes. No issues with alimony and spousal support. No paternity claims for the children." "I confirm." "Mrs. Harper, do you agree?" On the screen, Melissa nodded and said, "Yes, Your Honor." The judge checked the papers, asked the secretary to make a note in the minutes about the submitted agreement, and said, "The divorce is approved. The decree comes into force from today. The parties can obtain copies from the secretary." We walked out into the hallway. Rick handed me a copy. "Here you go. That's it. If any demands appear, we have letters, a contact log, and the fact that there are no controversial points. But I don't expect any more. Thank you. Call me in a week when you receive the paper in the mail. Let's close the file." I went outside, got in the truck, and texted my mom. "The trial is over. Got the papers." She replied, "Come by tonight. Chicken and salad." I marked it on my calendar and headed off to my shift. Ben asked briefly, "Everything is fine?" "Yes. The question is closed." "Then let's go to the warehouse to make an application. The bracket there has been asking for a replacement for a long time." We worked until 4. I stopped by my mother's house before dinner to change my shirt, and take Scout for a walk. It was quiet at my mother's, a clean table, steam from the pan, the smell of baked chicken. She sat me down, put a plate on it, and poured me some tea. Divorce is neither a victory nor a defeat, she said. It's a fact. From here on out, you have your own path. That's what I feel, I replied. I want to stay the course. And here you go. Now eat. Your shifts won't sit out themselves. We had dinner and talked about the area. Before leaving, my mother gave me a container of meat and a bag of greens. I promised to install a newer motion sensor in the hallway, the old one sometimes jammed. On Saturday, there was a city festival in the park by the stage. Jade had written the day before, "I'm on duty at the forestry stand from 10 to 1. If you're there, come by." I arrived at 11. Schoolchildren were already playing on the playground. Children were reaching for tables with handouts. At the forestry stand, there were brochures about planting and watering, and a sign saying, "Ask the arborist." Jade, in a green jacket, was explaining to a man where to dig a hole and how to straighten out the root ball. Seeing me, she nodded for a minute, ended the conversation, and came over. "Hi, thanks for stopping by. How was Wednesday?" "Calm down. The court has approved everything. No questions." "Good. This is an important note." She handed me the booklet. "Take it just in case. If you plant a tree near the house, it will come in handy. I don't have a landing plan yet, but it will come in handy. We'll have 5 more minutes, then a break. If you want, we can go get some coffee." We grabbed coffee at a drink stand and walked around part of the park. Jade spoke about her work without pomp, about raids after complaints, about ash tree diseases, about volunteers who come to plant on Saturdays. There were no unnecessary words in her speech. She knew how to stay on topic and not drag out the conversation. "I'm glad you're keeping your boundaries," she said on the way back. "Sometimes people try to be good and end up losing themselves." Clear rules helped me, and time. I shrugged. "How are you? Is everything okay at home?" "Yes, I recently changed the seals on the windows and set up timers on the lights. I can send you a list of what really saves." They've arrived. I'm just making a plan for the summer. We said goodbye. She had started her next shift at the stand. I had household chores and a trip to my mother's to pick up boxes for the attic. In early May, Rick sent a letter. "Divorce decree has entered into force, copy attached. File closed." I printed it out and put it in the court folder. At work, maintenance began in the east of the city. Ben was going on vacation for a week, and I was appointed shift supervisor. Kendra said, "Your reports are neat. The team listens to you. Show that you can keep a schedule. If everything goes smoothly, we'll talk about a permanent role." The week went by without any disruptions. We closed the plan, no one was out of sync with the technology, and the reports were submitted on time. On Friday, Kendra called me into her office. "Well done. We'll think about a raise after the quarter. For now, you'll stay in the team, but with extra pay for leading shifts when needed." I walked outside, got in my truck, and texted Jade, "Did shift for a week. No accidents." She replied, "Congratulations. Well deserved. Coffee on Sunday." We met at the spy house. We sat by the window. I told her about the shift. She told me about the complaints after a strong wind and about the school project on caring for young trees. The conversation was easy. On the way out, I said, "Let's try having dinner on a weeknight. No rush. I have a portable grill. We can do it in the backyard." "Go ahead. I finish at 6 on Wednesday. I'll bring a salad and a pie." On Wednesday, I cleared the area, checked the gas cylinder, set up the table. Mom knew I had guests and sent a text. "Don't overcook. Less is better, but on time." I chuckled and put the phone away. Jade arrived on time. No bouquets or gifts. In the bag was a salad and a small pie. We had dinner, talked about simple things: snow removal routes, bus schedules, my shift schedule in June. No complicated topics. When it got dark, I carried the box with the remains of the food to the door and said, "Thank you for coming. I feel calm with you." Me too. She hugged me goodbye. Have a good shift tomorrow. Summer settled into a rhythm. We saw each other once a week, sometimes more often if our schedules clashed. Scout got used to her scent. Mom met Jade in August when I brought her to lunch. They talked in the kitchen about apple trees and when to whitewash the trunks. Mom said later, "She keeps her word and doesn't talk in empty phrases. This is a good sign." In mid-August, I drove to Noxter Avenue to look at a house with a "for sale by owner" sign. It was small, brick, with a high basement and a maple tree in the yard. Inside, it was clean and uncluttered. The seller showed me bills, a site plan, old photos. I took a picture and sent it to Jade. "Look, it's Noxter, close to the park and the bus." She replied, "It looks fair. I can stop by tonight." We met at the house. The seller let us in again. Jade looked through the basement, checked the windows, went out into the yard, looked closely at the roots of the maple. "The tree is healthy. You just need to thin out the crown. The house is fine. The question is the price and whether you are ready to change the area and your way of life." Ready, but I'm in no hurry. I looked at the plan. I want to calculate and understand how it will be with the schedule. Count. If you decide, I'll help with the tree and the yard. The following week, I went to see an accountant. We figured out the mortgage, expenses, insurance. It was manageable as long as I didn't make any big purchases in the first year. I sat down at my desk at home, opened a notebook, and wrote 2 columns, pros and cons. There were more pros. I called my mom. "I won't try to persuade you," she said. "If you think you're ready, make an offer to the seller. The main thing is not to take the upper limit and leave a reserve." There will be a reserve. We signed the contract in early September. The move was scheduled for the end of the month. I told Ben, "I'm taking 2 days off for the move. The rest of the days are according to the schedule. We'll arrange it. If you need hands for a couple of hours, just let me know." On moving day, boxes appeared in the yard. Scout walked around the rooms, sniffing. Mom brought soup and a baking dish. Ben helped carry tools into the garage, set up a rack with me. Jade arrived in the evening with a set of leaf bags and pruning shears. "Congratulations," she said. "I've brought something that will be useful in this yard." We went out to the maple. She showed us which branches to remove in the spring, where to put the composter, how to lay mulch around the tree trunk. The plan was simple. I wrote it down in my phone. Spring thinning, composter after snow. In the second week in the new house, I met a postman with Noxter on the street, the same one who asked for contacts of volunteers for my mother in the spring. He recognized me and said, "Mom is happy. The sensor doesn't beep. It's good that you're in our neighborhood now." Glad to hear it. At the end of the month, there was a fair in the park. I was walking past the stands when I saw Melissa with a stroller. She noticed me, stopped, and said quietly, "Hello, Nick." "Hello. I wanted to say thank you for those contacts in the spring. My children and I live with my mother. I work at the clinic for half a day. The lines at the center have become shorter. I can handle it. I won't ask for anything. I just wanted to say this. It's good that you have a program and a job. From now on, it's up to you." "I know." She looked at the children and back at me. "We won't write to you anymore. Good luck." "And you too." We parted without further ado. I noted in my mind that the conversation was short and clear. It was the right ending. I felt neither anger nor relief. It was just a fact. Everyone goes their own way. In the fall, I arranged for the meters to be transferred to a new address, installed a motion sensor in the hallway, insulated the hatch to the attic, and secured a bracket for a stepladder in the garage. Mom came on Sundays for an hour to drink tea. Jade came more often on weekdays after her rounds. She left a toothbrush and a sweater with me. We didn't rush with big words. There was a routine and clarity. At the end of November, I was approved for additional pay for leading shifts when needed. Kendra said, "You are neither hard nor soft. You are consistent. That's what's needed." I walked to the car and thought about how everything had aligned: work, Home, mom, scout, the occasional run by the lake, talking to Jade about trees and the winter plan. I knew where my responsibilities were and where they weren't, and I was going to keep it that way. The court made a decision. The messages stopped. Home was found where I wanted to live. There were people around who did their job and did not interfere with other people's roles. Everyone had their own part left. My part became the lines along which the light goes, and the house where the relay quietly clicks in the hallway when you pass by and do not think about anything extra. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one.